Do not stand at my grave and weep. I am not there. I do not sleep. I am 1,000 winds that blow. I am the diamond glint on snow. I am the sunlight on ripened grain. I am the gentle autumn rain. When you awaken in the morning's hush, I am the swift uplifting rush of silent birds in circled flight. I am the soft stars that shine at night. Do not stand at my grave and cry. I am not there. I did not die. I recently heard a speaker talking to people about how to live their lives. And he said, make writing your letter of recommendation easy. Make writing your eulogy impossible. Well, my mother, Gerry Woolls Rankin, certainly did that. As of now, she has been dead 9 days, and I've been sitting here inarticulate. It's not because there's not a lot to say, oh, quite the opposite. I have taken notes, trying to keep myself focused. Mom died as a result of Lewy body dementia on January 24th, 2024. She was 87.9 years old. She had 2 wishes, and I failed to fulfill one. Don't cry. We have been mother, daughter, and more beautifully, best friends for over 6 decades. Each day is really hard. That's because I have been overwhelmingly blessed to have been given the gift of this extraordinary woman to be my mother, to have the woman by my side, along my side through every step, every twist, every turn of every day of my life. So I'm sorry, Mom. I cried, and I'll still cry. One of her other rules was, when bad things happen, you have 24 hours to fall apart, then get a plan. 9 days out, I think I'm blowing that rule too. My mom, Gerry Woolls Rankin, had 3 children, Troy, Mary, and me, Leslie, and 4 grandchildren, Ari Elizabeth, Lauren, Asa, and Annalise. She was known for her kindness, her quick wit, her intelligence, her ingenuity, her faith, her smile, her laughter, her shyness, her boldness, wisdom, her notes, her moral character, her honesty, her fragility and her strengths, her love and her devotion. I'm sure there's more. So now I sat down to write an obituary, which in her case is also a eulogy, because she said she did not want any service. She did not want a funeral. She and I have lived together 56 of my 61 years. And on those other years, I talked to her at least once a day. I have a lot to tell the world. This is not going to be typical because Mom wasn't typical, and quite frankly, she deserved a lot more and a lot better than she got in life. I ache because of her death. I ache more because of what this disease, Lewy body dementia, did to her. And I ache with an intensity no one can fathom because of the things that happened to her and in her life, which remained unanswered and unexplained. Never fear. Mom's voice is still in my head. Be nice, she would say. Regardless of what we were addressing, regardless of relationships, obstacles, people, places, and events, be nice. And as always, I'm heeding her advice. Rise above it. Remember who you are. There are not words to express how I feel. So I apologize because these words are going to come jumbled. Please forgive me. They're all the facts of her life. And even some of the basic ones are up for discussion. According to her birth certificate, she was born March 6th, 1936 in Poteet, Texas. But throughout her whole life, her birthday was March 2nd. Almost every official document has 3/2/1936. The story is that her best friend and cousin, Sally, was precocious and had a big personality, and people would say, well, Sally, when's your birthday? And Sally would say, she's a little bitty, Sally would say, September 2th, next September 2th. And then they'd look, they'd smile, think that was cute, and then look at Mom and say, and Gerry, when's your birthday? Mom would say, March the 2th, March the 2th. No one ever told my mother that her birthday was not March the 2nd. It was actually March the 6th. So Gerry Woolls Rankin still celebrates her birthday on Texas birthday, March the 2nd, 1936. So after her birth to Irene Elizabeth Wallace and Hubert Driscoll, her parents divorced, and Irene married Temple Asa Woolls when Mom was, I think, about 4 years old. And Temple was Mom's daddy from that moment on. Soon she had 5 siblings, Leela, Nancy, Lynn, Temple, and Frank. Temple is deceased now. She grew up in Cotulla, Texas. Oh gosh, I loved it when she would talk about Cotulla and her life in Cotulla. I learned about her friend, Margaret Ann Hilge. Oh my goodness, Mom could always, until her death, recite Margaret Ann Hilge's phone number, and so can I, 907F13. She was her best friend. Mom also told stories of how Grandpa would meet her behind the house and bring her a vanilla malt. Never mind that Mom didn't like malts or vanilla, but she loved what it meant. She talked about cross-country trips with Aunt Beth and Grandma and Grandpa. And she said that we inherited our love of travel from her grandma. In fact, Grandpa Woolls would say, somebody said they were going to hell, she'd say, wait, let me get my hat. So I guess we did. Mom retold the story of being nominated for FFA Sweetheart. It was her freshman year, and it's some big fundraising event for the FFA. And because Mom was, in her words, dirt poor, everyone knew she wasn't going to win. In fact, they went on a trip to San Antonio so all of the nominees could try on the velvet robe and the train that they would get to wear if they won. Mom wasn't allowed to try it on. But as she wrote, it didn't bother me. I won. Mom wasn't about being in the limelight, but she was always about doing the best she could and doing the right thing. She talked of, how hard her parents worked and how proud she was of them. Oh, one special memory was of her mama and daddy, because they were so proud of Mom. She had been selected to represent Cotulla in Laredo, and she would get to take part of a parade and go to a ball. And her mom and dad were so proud because they got to go to the parade and they got to go to the ball. Her mom made her dress, and new fabric, and it had sparkles. She was so proud of her mama. In fact, she said, could Mama snow? Could Mama sew? Look at that fit. That's what she said. It's written on the back of this photograph. Yeah, Mama could sew. She loved her parents. So school, she seemed to be on every stinking page of the yearbook. For 4 years, she was a class officer, a member of the FHA, member of the band, and on the newspaper staff. She was a delegate to state and national events. She was representative in coronations, and she was a majorette for 3 years. In fact, her senior year, she was the head majorette, her 4th year of majorette. Interesting to know. Um, a year ago, almost a year ago, I found an old baton, and I took it to Mom and said, "Well, what do you think?" I'm here to tell you. She could still twirl, toss, and catch that thing. So she still had it. Throughout her school career, she was nominated, like I said, FFA Sweetheart and Class Favorite and Most Outstanding Girl and other various awards and scholarships. I can tell you she's Most Outstanding Mom and favorite to me. She wrapped up her school career as valedictorian. To say that her school years were busy is probably an understatement. So Mom got married right out of high school. She married her high school sweetheart, Gordon Rankin of Cotulla. And she recalls him sitting on his front porch across from her house and endlessly playing "You Are My Sunshine" on his fiddle. She suspects that may have been the only song he knew. Now, she regretted not having used those scholarships to go to college, but the love of and for family was stronger. She wrote, "Success is building a family, sharing a smile or a meal. It is lending a hand. It is being interested in those around you. Real success is helping others, loving others, and being loved by them." So it's settled. My mother was successful. Though those last 4 words sometimes stung, I'm pretty sure. While Gordon was finishing college, they lived in Houston, and Mom worked for Gulf Oil, and she told me that at the end of each day, she would pick up all the money of the day, put it in a bag, and walk through downtown Houston to deposit it in the bank. She was always shaking her head in hindsight at the idea of this little bitty girl, she was only like 5'2", carrying all that money. And she would always tell me, "Don't do anything stupid like that." And in fact, later, when my sister Mary was working at a restaurant, Pizza Hut, or Pizza Hut, she was in charge of closing it up, and she was in charge of getting all the money and making the deposit. So Mom would wake me up just before midnight, and we would travel to the next town, pick up Mary, take her to the bank to make the deposit, and make sure Mary was safe. So the perks, Mary was safe. We had a lot of late night pizza. So let's see, Dad graduated and joined the Marines, and off they went. And she had some stories to tell, but really the one she told most often was after the military, when they called home a travel trailer. For my dad's work, they would travel and stay in the most God-forsaken places in America. And then they'd move to the next one. But she was determined. She had Troy, my brother. She was determined to give him a home. So she had a picket fence, and the very first thing they did when they parked their travel trailer was she'd unroll the picket fence so he would have a home. I guess it wasn't exactly living the American dream, but there was a picket fence. So lots of interesting stories in that. She would tell me of a time that they tricked Troy. He had to be a little toddler, and he was in the office with somebody, and they hooked up the trailer and moved it out of sight, and then went in and told Troy, "Hey, go out to the house and get something." And he ran out the door, and she always laughed at the expression on little Troy's face because the house was gone. And there were some life-altering events that happened out there. Some woman was running to her carrying a baby. She didn't know the woman, and the baby had stopped breathing, and they were in the middle of nowhere, God-forsaken America. And she brought the baby to Mom, and Mom revived the baby. So some really good stories. It was fun to hear a lot about them. So anyway, after the constant moving for however many years, they ended up getting a home in the Los Angeles area. And during that time, Mom raised the kids, but she also played an integral part of growing Far West Corrosion Control Company, which was my dad's business. I could never figure out what he did, but that was his business. So when the third child, was born, I had a lot of disabilities. The doctors painted a pretty grim future for me, and my mom committed her life to proving those doctors wrong. So twice a week, every week, we would drive to Tishner Orthopedic Clinic and for physical therapy, and every other day we spent at least 2 hours doing physical therapy at home. And she was just determined to make me stronger and more capable. And it seemed like no big deal at all. But it was during that time that I witnessed my mother's strength and her compassion and her empathy, her tenacity, and her expansive love. For instance, when we went to Tishner Orthopedic Clinic, there was a huge waiting room and lots of kids, every ability. And all the moms were asleep. Mom never went to sleep. And all those kids would get to her. They would come, and pretty soon Mom would be surrounded, and they would be touching her and talking to her and just loving her. And I was never jealous, but gosh, I was insanely proud that she was my mom. And I still am. But it was just a magnet, her personality, her love. So, Mom made life fun and unexpected. Now, she was meek, but that doesn't mean she was weak. When it came to underdogs, she was as powerful as a hurricane. There are lots of things happening behind the scenes. I know my kids and probably my siblings don't even know some of the things that happen. If there was a chance somebody was being disrespected or treated unfairly, she was quick to set it straight. There was once an event in my school, I'm sure you're tired of these stories, sorry, where parents came and did an art activity, and I had a ball of yarn and I didn't know what to do with it. I raised my hand. No one ever answers because I'm quiet. So Mom finally said, go put the yarn over there. And I did. And it was the wrong thing to do. So back in that day, in the classrooms, there was a big bulletin board, and with all the kids' names, and the kids all started out, for instance, this time as flowers, everybody's name on a flower. But if you did something wrong, that changed. You became a black cloud in the blue sky. Ooh, I got a black cloud for putting the yarn in the wrong place, and it was crushing. But it was mostly crushing because the very next day was open house, and I was so sad that I was going to disappoint my parents, but I also was so upset that all the other parents would see that and judge my mom and dad. So I must have told her, because we went to open house, and you go get your name tags and all that. And we went into Mrs. Seymour's class, and I can still see her. Welcome, Mr. and Mrs. Rankin. And my mother just walked past, did not say a word, went straight to that bulletin board, took off her name tag and put it over the little black cloud. I know it's not a big deal, but I was not only vindicated, but I saw integrity. I saw doing the right thing. She knew it wasn't me. She knew it was her mistake, and she was gonna make sure everyone knew it wasn't her. It wasn't me. So anyway, it was a big deal to me, and it showed me who she was, honest and going to defend anybody wrongly accused, I suppose. I never felt so understood. It was incredible. Anyway, I know that's not important, but it really does reflect her character and her integrity, at least in my head. So not only was she apt to protect me and my feelings, she was just setting an example, I guess. Doing what's right when no one's looking, that's integrity. So Mom, of all things, gosh, it was not of all things, one of the things she was, I just heard this term recently, she was the best character coach. If you're watching, you're going to learn something from her. So time passed, there was a divorce, and truth be told, I think that nearly broke her. And as time passed, she would talk about Gordon and about the man he was, and it was always very pleasant. And she had very good memories, and I'm glad that we were able to go back to those. But we stayed in California for a while after the divorce, and then we moved to Texas, and we lived close to her sisters, Nancy and Leela, and oh, Mom loved being able to see them and talk to them regularly. We laughed about some of the times that she had with Nancy and her husband, Fu. I know as much as Mom liked being a mom, I think she really enjoyed being able to go and just be Gerry and have dinner with Nancy and Fu. And we talked about going to Leela's house for dinners and different things we'd done together. Or they had done together, and I tagged along. But she really had a special relationship with them. But she also had a really special relationship with Lynn. The love of and for her family just strengthened and made her stronger and stronger and stronger as possible. So, but while in Houston, she began working at Methodist Hospital. And she eventually worked for the world-renowned heart surgeon, Dr. Michael DeBakey. I'm sure he didn't know her from Adam's off ox, as Mom would say. But she was really proud to be part of that team. She was on this cutting-edge thing called the Peripheral Vascular Lab. And she was proud of that work. And I'm proud of her, too, because without the education, she was taking the bull by the horns. But then there was me, and I was having heart problems and different stuff. So she resigned, and I'm pretty sure that's the reason. And she started working at a Safeway grocery store as a clerk, and then she got transferred to College Station, working there. And I know she missed working for Dr. DeBakey's crew, but she made so many good friends at Safeway. And in fact, it wasn't but a few months after we moved there that all the students that shopped at that store, and I swear everybody did, all the Aggie students were calling her Mom. And sometimes there would be no line at other registers, and Mom would have a long line because the students were coming to her just to see her or tell her about an exam or tell her about a problem or see if she had some advice or discuss a big success. So her family was growing. She also made fantastic working friends there. Oh my gosh, the stories. One in particular, woman was Mary Kay, and she was probably Mom's very best friend in adulthood. They went antique shopping and rose shopping, and Mary Kay became a big part of our family. And it was really great that once Mom moved from College Station and moved in to become part of my family, that Mary Kay remained a very active part of her life. So it was really good. Like I said, she moved in with me. Nothing was wrong. It was just for the love of the relationship. She came and she helped me raise my 3 children, Ari Elizabeth, Asa, and Annalise, and she made sure everything they wanted to try by gummy they got to try. So she supported them with love and encouragement. There was lots needed sometimes, and fun. Oh my gosh, I can still picture them. We had a 1/4-mile driveway, and all these little baby sandpipers would play dead when they saw the car coming. So Mom and the 3 kids would be running out in front of the car, shooing them off or picking them up, and so the car could get away. So there was fun. She provided challenges. Oh my gosh, she was protective. When we moved to Missouri, there was a time that she wielded a baseball bat to get me and my kids and herself out of a store where we were dealing with a racist group that were not really, it was growing into a small mob. Oh, was she, a little thing, carried that bat and got us to the car. So she taught the kids, she taught Ari Elizabeth that left, right, left does not mean you drag your right foot every time. She helped with their activities like setting up she was a one-woman show at the French Club with my daughter and setting up some haunted house thing. I don't know. Did all sorts of things. And then, oh my gosh, the snacks. Asa, think of all the packages of Oreos and bags of popcorn and, oh, the peanut butter sandwiches. Oh, the list just goes on. She was their biggest fan. Choir, band, football, soccer. Oh gosh, there's so much. Track. Did I say choir? Anyway, all sorts of things. She was always there. Even when she was the only one there. She loved her grandchildren with every, including her dying breath. Ace's visit was probably the last complete sentences she was saying. So those that seem lost, though there was a constant tender bewilderment, were no less loved. Her fourth grandchild is Lauren, Troy's daughter. Oh gosh, Lauren made her smile. As Lauren aged, they developed a fantastic, unusual relationship based on fun and love and a bit of incorrectness and who's taller than whom and lots of laughter. And I noticed that when Lauren was around, it loosened up Mom way more than usual. So the laughter was always growing, and Mom seemed to love to shock Lauren by being anything but a typical grandmother. And Lauren brought out the competitive side of Mom too. I hadn't seen that before. But even though they didn't get to spend a lot of time together, Mom was just filled with joy when they did. She never met Lauren's new husband, but suspects, what did she say? She suspects that he's a good man that knows how to have fun. She enjoyed that last visit, Lauren. Yeah, okay, in the late 80s, she worked at Yellowstone National Park in the summers. She made lots of friends and loved serving the guests at Old Faithful and had all sorts of funny stories. And she took it upon herself to really experience as much of the park as possible. The employees were all encouraged to try to walk 100 miles during their summer. Mom walked over 300. So, yeah, I'd say she liked it. She discovered hidden treasures and relished the time when family would come so she could share the experience with them. She was always beaming with pride when she was introducing one of her grandchildren to her friends. But she especially liked exploring the park with and through the eyes of the kiddos. Harry, Elizabeth, Asa, and Annalise were there every summer, and Lauren came quite often too. She often retold the stories and cherished the photos and the memories, and she was the driving force of those kids climbing rocks and catching rainbow raindrops on their tongues and playing poo sticks at every single river or creek and playing those rousing competitive games of spoons at the Old Faithful Inn. So I can see now how her actions and her involvement influenced the children and continue to influence them today, even if they don't know it. Their success is firmly built upon the foundation of my mom's shoulders. Visiting her sisters, Nancy in the mountains of Montana for weeks at a time was one of the highlights of her years. It was another chance for her not to be Mom, not to be Gerry or Ninny, but it was simply to be herself and be loved as and accepted and respected as Gerry. I think she really loved to go back to those family roots, and soon the other sisters, Leila and Lynn, were involved, and I think Frank came on occasion. So family, oh my gosh, that's the thing she cherished and to which she tried to hold on to the most. Here's that line again: those that seem lost, though a constant tender bewilderment, were no less loved. Boy, she would return from those trips full of stories and laughters and memories, and then when she and the grandkids and me would go back to the Northwest, she could stop at certain trees or bridges and relive the fun that she had at that spot with her siblings. It was very, very good. So once the grandchildren were gone, we moved to Montana. And she hiked and kayaked and loved to go on trips. In spite of some health hiccups, she didn't slow down. We were out and about, wandering, enjoying the big sky country. And she got real involved in helping me train service dogs and thereby expanding her family to include those kids that got the service dogs and their adults. It also nurtured that a love of these special dogs in our lives, which at the end was an incredible comfort to her when all else seemed to be lost. There was a dog could sneak in and comfort her. Due to some unforeseen circumstances, we did end up moving back to Texas, and then we'd go back to Montana and Wyoming or Washington, in the summers. But she made some great friends, and she was often walking down the dusty lane to visit with our new friends, always carrying her Diet Dr. Pepper bottle in hand. She loved it out there. She loved watering the pecan trees and nurturing the plants so flowers were blooming again and getting them back to full health. And then later we had our sweet little neighbor children, Amaya and Melody, and they became 2 extra grandchildren to her. They were precious. And they kept her young and moving, and until the very end, she was often seen dancing or chasing them or pretending to do cartwheels. Oh my Lord. And she'd read, and they did jump rope, and she would teach them, and she was just loving those little girls. Again, to the end, they've brought her a lot of light and joy, even in some of those dark days. So I'm really grateful I was able to dip into my well of knowledge. I've been blessed. Oh my goodness. I have been blessed to have been her daughter and to have had the opportunity to watch and learn what greatness really is and to have been loved by her. Some of this, a lot of this, has been really difficult to watch the pain. But mostly, it's been a walk of positivity, love, humor. Oh my gosh, humor at the most oddball times. And love. I am most grateful that I was able to be by her side during the cruelty of this disease in order to remind her of her life and of how much she was loved. I will never forget her looking at me and asking me to tell everyone she had known. Her words, "You all helped me. Is there anything you would like to say or do? Please tell me soon before." For anybody I have ever had anything to do with, I always loved them. I still do. Tell them, but hurry. Please hurry. I tried to get the message to everyone, but I know I felt short. There are insufficient words in the English language for me to describe Gerry Woolls Rankin, my mom. To describe her depth of character, her integrity, her tireless commitment to kindness and truth, her inexhaustible desire to protect, to improve things, her desire to help and to be surrounded by those she loved. My mother, a woman who was admired and cherished by so many people through her 87 years, didn't have a lot of things to call her own. She always gave to everyone, even in death. Even in death, I fulfilled her wish. She has donated her brain to a brain bank at the Glenn Biggs Institute of Alzheimer's and Neurodegenerative Disease in San Antonio, in hope that maybe answers can be found and prevent this from happening to anybody else. The Lewy Body Dementia Association also supports research, so she donated a little bit of money she had to this organization. So if you feel compelled to do something, donate to the Lewy Body Dementia Association in her honor. Then came Lewy body dementia. It is the second most common form of dementia, but it is the most cruel of all forms. And I refuse to give it the last word. I will give that to my mom, Gerry Woolls Rankin. While holding my hand in the late hours of January 27th, Mom uttered her last word. And above all else, it sums everything my mother is, was, and believed in. Her last word: love.